Howdy ho, people of the internet. Okay, so hauling around some big tires here in my little car, big old giant four-wheel drive tires. Got four of them in here, and I was thinking to myself, with all the stuff going on with the election, because it's 2 days after the election, and I don't know who the president is, and nobody seems to. So we're stuck with that. But I was thinking that we're kind of stuck in a cycle, in a vicious cycle, if you will, that we may not ever be able to get out of, and I'll tell you why. Traditionally, Democrats, back in like the days of Kennedy and before that, they were very much, their philosophy they had, the agenda they pushed forward was a very pro-American, pro-jobs in our country, working man, making good wages, pro-union, keeping the big corporations from overworking your working people, keeping them from being work too hard and giving them good wages, all that stuff, insurance, things like that. And this was all the idea of having companies provide this. Okay. And you would never see them say it was an okay thing to burn a flag or anything like that. Okay. On the other hand, you had the Republicans. The Republicans were more of a blue blood type, pro corporation, big money group of people who did not have any problem with bringing illegal immigrants into a sweatshop and having them work for nothing, promising them they're going to be, citizens of this country if they do these things, that sort of stuff, and didn't have a problem manufacturing off the shores of the United States as long as it was cheaper. Didn't have a problem importing, a car from Lithuania if the car could be sold here cheaply enough to make them a profit. And then you fast forward to today, and you see it's kind of flip-flopped a little bit. If you look at Kennedy cut taxes on one of the biggest tax cuts that we had up to that point, and it was a tax cut across the board. The top earners in the country, they had a much lower rate than they had been. And, it helped. But who opposed that tax cut in those days? It was Republicans. Republicans opposed it, said we couldn't pay for it. You fast forward to Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton did the same thing. He cut taxes on the middle class. Okay? And at that time, Republicans came out and said it's not a big enough tax cut. You're only cutting it on the middle class. You need to cut it across the board. The point I'm making is Republicans of old didn't want any kind of a tax cut for anyone except corporations. Okay? Now, that's what they talk about. Democrats used to talk about tax cuts. Now, a tax cut for anyone is a bad idea. Okay? I dare say even the middle class. Okay? So the problem that we have, and the reason you see this kind of flip-flop in values, because you saw it with Trump. Many of the things Trump did were traditionally things that Democrats would promote. The pro-American agenda with the manufacturing here, bringing jobs back here, getting unemployment rates down, working in the inner cities with with minorities to get them jobs, and all these things that he was doing. At least at that portion of what he was doing was traditionally something that the Democrats would do, and they're suddenly now we're against that. And what's happening is you have a war going on between these two parties, and that war is waged by the candidates they have from one year to the next. And the reason they wage this war is because they have power and money, and they make power and money from being in these parties, and they're waging a war with one another. The reason they're able to do this is they must have an enemy at all times. That to be able to promote, you have to elect us because we have these evil people out here who are going to destroy the country if they're elected. And they're both saying that, and so they have this war going on. They're going around in a circle like that, like a big war. And they go grab ideas from one another. You know what I'm saying? They grab an idea here, and they grab an idea there, and they take it for their own agenda. And as soon as that happens, the opposing party suddenly doesn't like that idea anymore, even though they did it before. We don't like that idea anymore. Once upon a time, that was a good idea, but it's not a good idea anymore. So I don't see a way out of it. That's where we're going to be. That's why we have a divided nation, because of this power struggle that in order for these people to remain in power, they have to have the struggle. In order to have the struggle, they have to have an enemy, and that's what they do. And in order to get elected, they have to sometimes do what the other party would have done, as it was in their agenda, their philosophy. They have to do some of those things, and as soon as that happens, then that philosophy changes on the other side. So how do we ever get out of it? I don't know. But I will say this. It's fun to be an American, right? You guys have a good day.